Hello.
Hello,
The banner
hello.
looks great. The banner looks awesome. Here we are. Hi, Peach. Not sure if she can hear us.
Can you hear me?
All we can do is laugh. All we can do is laugh. That's
And
it.
I can hear you and you can hear me. So really, I think we're okay.
Well, then let's just start talking. Welcome. Welcome, everybody, to 323.
Woo!
We're having some technical difficulties, obviously. There's a great picture of Nexus Junior. How awesome is that for them?
We will be talking about them shortly. As you can see, they are doing great things overseas. So while we figure out the technical details, a few things that we're going to be going over the show today. So we're going to be talking about Nexus. I think PJ's here. PJ, you can jump in at any point. And we're also going to be talking
with the buttons. I'm not sure why or how. Anyway. So you're right. Continue, Charlene. Fill everybody in.
So we are going to be talking about Nexus Junior, as I mentioned. They are doing great and wonderful things as they always are. We are going to be talking about the World Championships coming up shortly. We are going to be talking about Skate Ontario Provincial Championships for Starskate. And we have a lovely guest today by the name of Lance Vipond. And we obviously have our on thin ice question today about.
So we're talking about same. Yeah, we're not going to reveal the question. I was about to, and then I stopped myself. No, let's take the question off the screen, please. And we don't really need the other banner. So here we go. It's going to be one of those days, which is interesting because last week was exactly the same day. I was having all kinds of connectivity issues. Yes, Rogers, I'm pointing at you. So apparently it got all fixed, but I'm not actually sure if it is. So today's the acid test. I want to also say, which we didn't get a chance to really mention last week, and people need to go back to our YouTube channel and to watch the outstanding interview that Mazen did with our guest last week, Leah Pereira and Trent Michaud, who are on their way to the World Championships. Because it was such a scramble technologically last week, it was a little bit kooky. So we just want to make sure that you go check out that interview because it was fantastic. And a belated thank you to Leah and Trent for coming on because they pre-recorded the interview. Mazen, you were in charge of all of that. Look at us. We all sort of match a little bit. I got a little bit of orange in my scarf. This was very good, very well planned. So let's go right now to Skate Ontario News, shall we?
Sounds good.
Let's do it.
Okay. Let's see if I can get my whole face in the camera. What do you think? Oh, there we go. I have to sort of lean on the side. This is because we are still on Instagram, which is fantastic. As Charlene mentioned, we are delighted to be able to welcome Lance Vipond in a little bit. We're going to talk about a couple of clients that he has who are on their way to the World Figure Skating Championships from Skate Ontario. But let's take a look at the entire bunch of folks who are headed to the World Championships who are representing Skate Ontario. We're talking about Piper Gillis and Paul Poirier. We're talking about Maddie Schizas and Conrad Orzel and Brooke McIntosh and Ben Mimar and Leah Pereira and Trent Michaud. All the best to all the skaters. They're all heading out probably this weekend. And thoughts, you guys, what are our chances? What are the chances for the Canadian athletes as they head to Worlds in Saitama?
I am personally looking forward to this. And, we have to feel so proud of these Ontario athletes. Everybody, we've got athletes competing in every discipline once again at the World Figure Skating Championships. That says a lot about the province, the coaching, the athletes, the support system that they all have. And so I just think that is just phenomenal. And you know what? We not only have competitors, but we have a couple of contenders. I mean, Piper and Paul have just done a phenomenal job this season. They've won both of their Grand Prix, as well as the Senior Grand Prix final. And you know what? They're heading into this World Championships. They've got to be heading into this World Championships with a great deal of confidence. And I can't wait to be able to watch both of their programs and just root them on so well. In the pairs, we've got 2 pairs. And you know what? They're fantastic. These guys are young. They're in this sport. And I think we're going to see some great things from both of these pair teams. And in the singles events, we've got Conrad Orzel, who is going to his first Senior World Championships. He's really excited. He's taking everything in stride. I'm sure Lance is going to be able to kind of give us a little bit more insight in regards to his training and his programs and whatnot. And then as well, we've got Maddie Schizas, who has competed at a couple of World Championships. She's also competed at the Olympic Games. So she's got some experience, under her belt as she's entering this season, this competition. You know what? I think it's going to be great.
There are another couple of events coming up. And one is we've got some skate an international, and that includes Lucille Yang, who represents Skate Ontario. But let's turn our attention for a moment to Nexus Junior and a synchro. Charlene, what do you think?
Yes. So Nexus Junior, from the well-known synchronized skating club Nexus, who seems to clean up in almost every category often, is a fantastic representative of Skate Ontario. They just went to Angers, or for you butchers in the audience, Angers, Mazin, and they came back with a silver medal from France. And we are nothing short of proud. So congratulations, Nexus Junior, for your silver medal. We are so very proud, and thank you for representing Skate Ontario. Great job.
And this was the ISU World Junior Synchronized Championships. And of course, the Senior Synchronized Championships are coming up in a couple of weeks. That March 31st to April 1st weekend in Lake Placid. Yours truly is going on PJ dollars just for fun to sit and watch. I'm going to be sitting with the Nexus Bunch. I'm quite excited, along with my pal Deanna Wright. So it's going to be great. I want to be texting during a few things. I'm sure it'll be available on live streams. So lots more great competitions to come. Okay, we are going to take a look now at the fact that we have this amazing guest. I'm talking about Lance Vipond. Lance is an outstanding choreographer. You may remember a little known skater, Caitlin Osmond, world champion, Olympic medalist. You may remember her. He, of course, is the choreographer who has been working with Maddie Schizas, national champion, and Conrad Orzel, both of whom are headed to the World Figure Skating Championships. And he's now in a banner in the Brant Figure Skating Club. He's a Hall of Famer. So, Lance Vipond, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming. You remember the first time you called me? I was in Alaska, and we were dealing with some crazy time change differences. I wasn't able to do it then, so I'm happy to be here. Thanks for not forgetting about me.
We would never.
We are so
No.
Never. Exactly.
Can I start? I'm going to start.
Go.
Yeah, please do.
Lance, welcome. We're so happy to have you on the show with us. You know what? We've known each other for a very long time, since we were just wee little young lads skating. And I want to actually know, how did this whole career that you have created for yourself begin? From the first time that you decided, you know what? I like this skating thing so much. I'm going to start coaching. I'm going to start choreographing. Tell us all how it, organically came about.
Well, it's kind of a roundabout story. I'd say that I initially got into it when my skating career ended. It ended kind of abruptly due to a back injury. So I didn't really have a plan at that point. My plan was to continue competing, and that kind of got poo-pooed. So I went into coaching just because I didn't have any other plan for my life at that point. And I don't know, I didn't really enjoy the coaching aspect of it. It just wasn't for me. I didn't find it maybe spontaneous enough or creative enough for me, because that's always been what I've enjoyed about the sport, and that's what my life is like. I'm a pretty creative person. So while I was coaching, I was also looking into other avenues for my creativity, something that I could do to get it out and feel that same kind of energy and excitement that I used to feel when I was performing for audiences and having that connection with audiences. So anyway, I went to theater school. I auditioned for a theater school in Edmonton and went to theater school for 2 years and did a 2-year program. And then from there, I went and studied acting in Liverpool, England, for just a semester. It turned out to be, it was supposed to be a whole BA program, but didn't quite last there. Came back, started working in theater in Edmonton. And throughout all of this, I had gone to train at the Royal Lenora Club when I was 19. So I met a lot of amazing skaters, a lot of amazing Alberta skaters and skaters from actually all over the world. Ravi Walia and I were very, very good friends. And when I went back to Edmonton to work in theater, I also started working with Ravi a little bit. He was beginning his tenure at the Ice Palace Figure Skating Club. He was really starting to build it up again from the bottom. And he asked me if I would come in and work with the kids and do some programs. So that's kind of how it started. I mean, I had been doing some before in little pockets here and there whenever I had some time. And I was very lucky that people trusted me with that. I guess maybe they had followed my skating career, and I was a pretty artistic skater. They would have noticed that because I didn't often do a lot of jumps. The artistic really was the only thing that was there to stand out. Maybe that was it. Sadly, that was it. Anyway, it just snowballed from there. I started working with Ravi. The theater thing lasted for a couple of years, 4 or 5 years in professional theater out west. And again, I didn't really feel that was for me. And all along I was doing choreography. And luckily, all of these interesting athletes came into my life. Caitlin came into my life at this time when she was 10 years old. And that was just it was a spark for me. It really like ignited this feeling for skating that I had been missing, this feeling like she almost reminded me of myself. I mean, she's so much more than me in skating terms, but she had this light inside her and this passion to connect with people and to show who she was. And I fell in love with her immediately. So from there, I was doing theater, a little skating, but always going back to look after this little tiny group of skaters that Ravi and I were starting with. And it just blossomed from there. She started becoming successful. And before I knew it, she was at Worlds and Olympics. And yeah, it snowballed. This isn't something that I wanted to do or had ever planned to do. I write music as well. I have a song called Lucky Man, and it's about how I feel like I luck into all this stuff. It's like my life just rolls along. I go with the punches, and that's just how it's been. And luckily, a lot of good things have come into my life.
That's amazing.
I don't know if that answers the question, but
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Well, here's my question, and it's kind of a follow-up to do with Worlds Olympics. As a choreographer, is it intimidating to think of just, little old me, Lance Vipont, that I've got work that on the sport's biggest stages? Like, what does that feel like for the first time?
Mm-hmm. It's like a huge imposter syndrome for me. I suffer from that in general in almost everything in life, but yeah, it's intimidating. I mean, I grew up watching the work of all these great choreographers, Canadian choreographers, David Wilson, Sandra Bezic. Oh, I could go on and on. Laurie Nickel. So to all of a sudden be on the same stage as these heroes of mine Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. And it's still unbelievable to this day. I just really think how lucky I am, how fortunate I am, and to be included in that group, in this community. It's yeah, overwhelming, humbling,
You are humble.
all the feels. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you find that that feeling of imposter syndrome, or that like, oh my goodness, like I'm here with these folks, does that inform your work and your creative process, or do you try and block it? Like how does it impact it if it does?
I don't think it does. I don't think it does. Every time I have a new client and I start with them, or we start a new season of work with existing clients, I am terrified. I have butterflies in my stomach. It's flipping. I'm like, how am I going to do this? Am I going to be able to do this? Is anything going to come out? But for me, when I get there, it's the connection that I have with the athlete in the moment that really gets everything going. And that's all I focus on. I don't often think of what results I want to see or what could happen. I mean, when you get to the bigger stages, you have to think of those things, right? You've always got to plan for every little detail.
For sure.
But I mean, I don't think no, I think I always approach everything the same way. I go like the person first, and I find a way to connect to them, and then I find a way where I can help them express who they are. And it seems to bring out the best of them that way, and bring out something that's unique to the person, instead of me kind of like putting clothes on them that don't fit, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, whatever.
So
you
have Conrad Orzel.
Mm-hmm. I do. Lucky me again.
So, Lance, you have Conrad Orzel and Maddie Schizas, various skaters with Skate Ontario Proud, who are headed to Worlds. Yep. Can you talk to us a little bit about their programs this season, and how you think that their seasons have developed, and what Worlds means to them?
Mm-hmm. I'll start with Conrad. Conrad was new to me this season. He made a big, huge change, moved out to Edmonton to train with Ravi. And I'm part of the package. So I luck out again. I get to do his programs. It was an amazing experience. He was really set on working on the side of the skating that I am in charge of, the component mark, expression, trying to become more musical, and he really dove in and trusted us and trusted the process. He's a very smart guy, very talented guy, obviously, and he's come so far. It's so nice to see that after a year of trusting the process, following everything that's Ravi set out for him, trusting me and all my crazy ideas, that it's working out for him. I'm so happy to see that. It's so nice when nice people succeed. And I mean, he sacrificed a lot to move all the way out there, especially leaving the big city of Toronto for that, and all his family behind. He's excited. He's nervous. That's a big deal. I don't know if he thought he would get there this year anyway. So I think he's taking all of these little successes that he's having in the end of the season as kind of like a cherry on the cake to his career. And he's building still from here. And I think he's only going to get better going forward. For sure. Maddie is amazing. She had such a breakout year last year. Oh my gosh, that was so fun to watch her at the Olympics. Such a breath of fresh air. This year, she's still a breath of fresh air. She's a lovely person to work with. She's such a unique personality. She's gone back to her old free skate program that I choreographed last year for the Olympics. After not having maybe the success that she was looking for this year with a new long program that we had done to West Side Story. I'm all for that. I'm 100% behind the skater being at their most comfortable. You know, it is all about, sadly, sometimes it is all about what you do out there, like the elements, the technical side, right? If you don't have that, the rest of it's not going to add up to very much, unfortunately. So it's important for her to be feeling confident and to go back to something that was more successful for her and something that maybe is a little bit more calming. The music's slower. I think she should be able to go into Worlds feeling more confident with herself, and that's the main thing, right? So that she has a good experience.
I think it's so evident that when you're working with these skaters, that your concern is them as a human first, and I think that's such a beautiful
absolutely.
thing to see. And it kind of parallels your proud uncle status in your own personal life. I know that your niece is in skating. What is it like enjoying skating through and with your niece? And I've seen her along at competitions and the whole thing. What is that like?
Well, you know, when you are an adult, you can get so wrapped up in your life and what you're doing, and it can become so important to you that you don't really see what it was that you loved about it in the first place. Mm-hmm. Maybe that is still what I do kind of in my life. But those two little kids, my niece and nephew Ryan and Mason, they're like little touchstones. Every time I see them, I go back to them and they ground me and they bring me back to what's important in life. So like you said, seeing the world through their eyes, this is any parent I'm sure would feel the same way. I'm an uncle, but probably won't be a parent. But just to see everything again through a fresh lens it's refreshing, and it keeps me grounded and really remembering what is important in life and what isn't, you know. So the sport, I guess anything in life, if you get too involved in it, can drive you a little bit nuts, trying for perfection all the time and trying to be the best and keep everything on track. But yeah, they've been a blessing in my life for sure. Changed it completely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know what, Lance? You're a blessing in our lives. And we want to thank you so much for joining us today on 3 Turn 3. You are a treat. And world out there, make sure that you check out Lance's Facebook page and his Instagram, and that you look for Conrad and Matt at Worlds. So Lance, we will talk to you soon. Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Well, it's that time of day again, everybody. It is.
And the punches keep rolling.
Her mic is off.
That's okay. So, she'll come back.
Now my mic is on. I don't know why mine is, just so completely bonkers. Anyway, we're going to talk about something super interesting. Charlene, you're going to go for it. Tell us what we're doing.
Woo! So not ironically or ironically, the universe has bigger plans for us. I actually had this very conversation today about and surrounding Skate Canada's opening the door, if you will, to same gender pairs. So not just in free skate pairs, to my understanding, also for dance pairs.
Yep.
So for those of you at home, Skate Canada is the only federation up until this point who has opened the door for the opportunity for skaters of any designation to skate together up to the national level. So what this means is in Canada, then that would be, it is not to be discriminated against, it is to be allowed. But past a national level, that would be more of an ISU discussion. Or
that's right. That's right. Who wants to lead the charge?
Mazin does.
I knew it.
Well, you know what? I think it's very progressive. I think that it is quite inclusive. There's, I think, a lot of fine details to still be made aware of in regards to, the rules and the elements and so on and so forth like this. But I think those things will end up coming out, eventually, obviously, before you start choreographing and whatnot, and training. But at the same time, I am positively optimistic that it will take off. It might take a little bit for it to take off, because just keeping in mind too that if the other federations don't buy into it, then potentially, which is nothing to sneeze at, but the skaters would end up becoming a national champion, and then that's it. right? That's as far as they go. If the ISU doesn't necessarily buy into it, to be able to kind of make it go internationally. So there could be that added expense, but at the same point in time, it could be an amazing way for young skaters to compete at the national championships, and potentially, you know, with their best friend, with somebody that they know that they're suited very well with, you know, that they get along with, so on and so forth, just like in pairs and dance.
Okay,
PJ, what do you think about it?
Can I jump in next? Well, exactly. So let me tell you this. Show me the money. This is not a unique or original concept. I competed in similar pairs when I was young. You know, my best pals and I would, you know, get together for the club championships, and we would compete in similar pairs, similar dance, similar everything. So I appreciate the sentiment, but show me the money, NSO. If you actually mean this, then show me the programs that are put in place in order to encourage and support same gender pairs and same gender ice dance teams. I don't see that so far. So if you in fact mean it, then do it. That to say about this. I think that it's a wonderful way to show inclusion. And I think that it's super important that everybody be allowed to participate in the way that they want. But unless you actually mean it, it just is lip service. Tired of lip service. I really am. So I really hope that they mean it, but I don't see any demonstration yet of any programs that say, you know what, we're going to support pairs and dance teams all the way, whoever they may be, all the way from, you know, novice all the way through to senior at national championships. So that's what I want to see. I'm not one for just like, if this is the great starting point, great, then say it's a starting point, but don't tell me it's a story when it's just words. That's what I say.
And that's fair. And you know what, as someone who also skated similar pairs at Club Comp, like there's a very famous program that opened up you know, my ability to do choreography in my own little club. And it was based on a Grease program where I was John Travolta. My good friend at the time, Katie Rowland, was Olivia Newton-John, and we killed it. And I had a nice little dance lift, and I lifted her and the whole thing. But here's where it gets into the technical side for me. As you said, like, you know, saying this is performative, it's great. It's like, oh, yay, it's allowed. But how does this play out? So for me, I think it's a very interesting thing, because from a technical standpoint, especially from a pairs free skate place, some really interesting high voltage elements could happen. But is that to the detriment of other aspects? So we just had, you know, Lance on for our interview today. Like, do some of the choreographic moments suffer because maybe we've got two gentlemen that decide to do some electrifying throws, but can they do the overhead lifts? We're talking about different bodies. Unfortunately, in skating, we have to talk about bodies whether we want to or not. As someone who is 5'3", I was on the taller side of pair girls. And so not a lot of men or humans that identify as men that are my height are the same density that I am. So maybe lifts are going to be an issue, you know? So there are so many different nuances. I think dance will do very well with this. I'm very interested to see if anyone embarks upon pairs. And that's besides the point that who actually is going to have the cojones, if you will, to be like, you know what? Yes, I'm actually going to do this. It's one thing to say, oh, yes, this is nice in theory, but you have to go and train every day with your peers. You have to be taken seriously. You have to take yourself seriously despite the noise, right? So it's a lot more than just like, love everyone. There's so much to it. And I really do wonder, what is the foundational stuff that's being laid? Because this seems like a really like top tier move when there is a lot beneath that needs to be sorted out.
Well, that's exactly what I was meaning in regards to the technical aspect of the sport. And at the same point in time, when I also said, where does it go? If the ISU doesn't necessarily want to recognize, same gender pair and ice dancing, then where does it go? And like you just said, Charlene, that's an expense to be able to compete at what we used to know back in the day of like your little club competition and your inter-club competition and, you know, the fun competition. That's one thing. You set some time aside, you know, for the kids to be able to put a similar pair routine together. But now when these kids are potentially competing on the national stage, that level of expense is going up, whether they want to admit it or not. And so, you know, will that play out as a positive or will that play out as a negative? I don't know. It's only to be seen. I think that what they being Skate Canada has potentially done is just open up the question and the conversation to be had to say, you know what, let's see. I wonder if they've got a plan, if they've got a 3 or a 5 year plan to this whole thing, to say, listen, if we don't get the numbers, you know, that are willing to participate, then it's a program that we might no longer want to, you know, to have to take place. But if we do get the numbers, then maybe we will invest more within the program itself. I don't know. I think what we're all saying is very similar. It's an interesting, tact that they're bringing forward. Let's see what happens.
And I think they are also bringing on some interesting consult. They're bringing on, you know, people to consult on this too. So it's not just the NSO. I don't want to speak out of turn, and I could be incorrect about this, but correct me if I'm wrong, PJ. I believe, you know, people with big voices like Caitlin Weaver are on, you know, the panel to discuss these things. So I don't think it's just, you know, shooting ideas in the air. I think people are actually behind it. I'm just interested to see how it unfolds.
Well, I think that being behind it is one thing. The NSO or any organization throwing dollars at the infrastructure and the supporting system and the, you know, the pathway, that is something else. Would it be reasonable at all to consider something, say, like an open category? So there would be, you know, ice dance pairs and then pairs open and pairs ice dance, or does that in fact defeat the point if we're going to try and be more inclusive?
I think it defeats the point personally, but that's my opinion.
That's a good question. And
Okay,
you know what?
I think so too, actually.
Yeah, I'm pausing only because I'm just thinking to myself, you know, the idea behind this, and not to say that I know exactly what the incentive or the idea was behind this, but I'm just wondering if for those athletes of the same gender, they might want to only compete with those other athletes of the same gender. So to potentially have it open, I'm not sure whether or not that might defeat the purpose, but I don't know. I'm not privy to those meetings, like you just said, Charlene. So we're just conversing about the idea and whether or not we think that it's a good idea or not. I think what we're all saying is it's relatively, you know, a nice move forward, but I think there's a lot more details that have to be, you know, exposed for us to either, you know, get completely behind it or to be a little hesitant or to say, no, I'm not behind it at this point in time.
You know, at the end of the day, skating is for everyone. That is something that I deeply believe in. And I'm sure I can speak for the three of us that, you know, the more people that get to enjoy skating in whatever capacity that is, we want that. So, you know, whatever it takes to accommodate everyone so that everyone can enjoy skating, I'm all for it. Let's just figure out how we do that.
You know what? That is the perfect note to end this On Thin Ice discussion on. Don't forget that On Thin Ice is something that happens on every 3turn3 show. And we love your input, questions, and comments, which you can leave in the chat window below. We want to thank Lance Vipon for joining us today. I want to remind everybody that actually, and there's a great comment from Yu Cheng Gao, really empathize, nice if I could say it, empathizes with Lance's story. Best wishes to Lance from Yu Cheng Gao. Okay, I'm going to give you a little story. Yu Cheng and I actually know each other. He's my co-announcer from Beijing. Best voice in the whole world. But that's a story for a different day. Hi, Yu Cheng. Okay, so we will not be having a 3turn3 show next week, partly because Harpreet and I are headed to the provincial championships where there will be tons and tons of content in Stratford from our provincial athletes looking to, they're all vying for provincial titles in all kinds of categories. I really need to, you know, not have the rental teeth anymore. Anyway, Stratford is next week, but we will return 2 weeks from today on March 30th. And we hope to see you then. We want to know if you have questions or comments. And again, follow us on social media. We're basically at Skate Ontario everywhere. And we just are excited that you joined us. So thank you so much to our entire audience. And Charlene and Mazen, we'll see you soon.
Toodaloo.